weather. Anyway, everybody take your hymn books. We're going to turn to 786, and we're going to sing the first and fourth verses of the song, Count Your Blessings. Let's all stand together.
Father, Lord, I thank you, praise your holy name for the blessings you bestowed upon us during this week, Lord, and all that through life, Lord, and I thank you for the blessings you continue to keep on us, Lord, and I just thank you for what you provided for us. I thank you for making a way as we walk in the path of righteousness that you have made for us, Lord. We can't go wrong. And I pray that you be with us tonight as we study your word and hear your word, Lord, that we might apply to our lives and be assured that you have made a way for us. In thy holy name, amen.
All right, you may have a seat. All right, I got a couple of quick trivia questions for you today. These came from my devotion this morning. First one is this. What was Jacob's name changed to? Who said that? Very good. The correct answer is Israel. Now, this is a part B to the trivia question. Who was Jacob's grandfather? Any takers? Jacob's grandfather. Who was Jacob's father? Very good. You get a star tonight, Sam. Now, so if Isaac was his father, who was Jacob's grandfather? That is correct. All right, so y'all just got to turn this refresher on your mind here.
Wake up to the big rain.
Oh, no. All right, but anyway, I've been traveling this past week here. I'm the educational road rep for Alabama Music for a few months here. I'm taking Adam's place. Don't ask me why, but I'm doing about 1,000 miles a week. But anyway, it gives me a chance to read signs in 3 different states now. So I was up in parts, the backwoods of Tennessee. You ever traveled around the back roads of Tennessee before? I know, yeah, so Reba, so you and Ann know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I was going down some back roads. But anyway, there was a church out in the middle of nowhere. I was in between Mount Pleasant and Lewis County and Waynesboro. Anyway, there's a church out in the middle of nowhere. But on their church sign it says, "Pray without ceasing, because Satan prays," P-R-E-Y-S, "without ceasing." Y'all get that? Pray without ceasing because Satan prays, P-R-E-Y-S, without ceasing. I thought y'all would enjoy that sign from Tennessee today. So, all right, you ready with Exodus? All right, Anne Marie, you ready for Exodus? No, I thought you were.
We're going to be looking in Exodus chapter 16. You mentioned the back roads of Tennessee. We discovered a lot of the back roads of Tennessee on the way back home from seeing Deborah's folks over, right after Christmas. There was a detour that we had to take because of I think it was an accident on 65. And we explored a lot of Tennessee. And there was one time Deborah asked me, "Where are we?" No clue. We're in Tennessee. That's all I can tell you. Tennessee, and there was another time in Kentucky we had to do the same thing. But anyways, we're going to be looking at Exodus chapter 16. I'm going to start reading in verse 1. It says, "They set out from Elim, and the congregation of the people of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after they departed from the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the people of Israel said to them, Would that we have died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat up by the meat pots and ate bread to the full, for you have brought us into the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Then the Lord said to Moses, Behold, I am about to rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them, whether they will walk in my law or not. On the sixth day, when they bring it in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily. So Moses and Aaron said to the people of Israel, at evening you shall know that it is the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. In the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard you grumbling against the Lord. For what are we that you grumble against us? And Moses said, when the Lord gives you in the evening meat to eat, in the morning bread to the full, because the Lord has heard your grumbling, that you grumble against him, what are we? Your grumbling is not against us, but against the Lord. Then Moses said to Aaron, say to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, come near before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling. And as soon as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. And the Lord said to Moses, I have heard the grumbling of the people of Israel. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God. In the evening quail came up and covered the camp, and in the morning dew laid around the camp. And when the dew had gone up, there was on the face of the wilderness a fine flake-like thing, fine as frost on the ground. When the people of Israel saw it, they said to one another, what is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, it is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. He says, gather of it each one of you as much as he can eat. You shall each take an omer, according to the number of persons that each of you has in his own tent. And the people of Israel did so, and they gathered some more, some less. But when they measured it with an omer, whoever gathered much had nothing left over, and whoever gathered little had no lack. Each of them gathered as much as he could eat. And Moses said to them, let no one leave any of it over until the morning. But they did not listen to Moses. Some left part of it till morning, and it bred worms and stank. And Moses was angry with them. Morning by morning they gathered it, and each as much as he could eat. But when the sun grew hot, it melted. On the sixth day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers each. And when all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow is the day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you will, bake and boil what you will, boil, and all that is left over lay aside to keep till the morning. So they laid it aside till the morning, as Moses commanded them, and it did not stink, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, eat it today, for today is the Sabbath of the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none. On the seventh day some of the people went out to gather, but they found none. The Lord said to Moses, how long will you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? See, the Lord has given you the Sabbath, therefore on the sixth day he gives you bread for 2 days. Remain each of you in his place, and let no one go out of his place on the seventh day. So the people rested on the seventh day. Now the house of Israel called its name manna. It was like a coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. And Moses said, this is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations, so that they may see the bread in which I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt. And Moses said to Aaron, take a jar and put an omer of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generations. As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron placed it before the testimony to be kept. And the people of Israel ate the manna 40 years, till they came to the habitable land, and they ate the manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. And then the last part of here, it says an omer is the 10th part of an ephah. But anyways, Exodus 16, and we kind of get from the point where they left. They've already complained in the wilderness a couple times now, before we get to where we're at in Exodus 16. And God has been taking care of them. He's been providing for them. They were on this oasis, basically, and when they came to Elim, and then when they departed for Elim, and God sent them on towards Canaan, there's a lot of wilderness, a lot of desert area. So that's the point we pick them up there. They're traveling through the wilderness, and we're starting in this the 40 years we're thinking about in the wilderness. Now we're getting to the hard part of it. So they left this, they entered the wilderness, and the wilderness, I don't think it's a coincidence, it's called wilderness of sin. And there's a lot of lessons that we can learn about that because that's what sin ultimately will do to us. It will lead us to the wilderness. It may seem appealing at first, but it will ultimately lead us towards destruction and lead towards decay, lead towards even death. But then it doesn't take very long as we get into the second verse, and the people, they're arguing against Moses and Aaron. They're already complaining again. They're complaining about what all they're having to go through, what all's going on. And then they even started talking about returning to Egypt. So, when we were in Egypt, we had food to eat. We had all the stuff that we wanted. We might as well have just stayed there instead of coming out here to die. But here's what sin also does to it. And I have to give credit. Brother Lanny brought me a commentary, and I was looking through the commentary, and J. Vernon McGee's commentary through the Bible, and I was looking through it through Exodus 16. He's actually really funny. I told Deborah that when I was looking through stuff. He's actually got some really funny stuff in there. But one of the ways that he equated this is what the type of thinking these people are going. Like, God is leading them to the wilderness. He's definitely telling them this is where to go. He's guiding them this way because he's ultimately going to bring them to the land of milk and honey. But sometimes we have to go through the wilderness part to get to that land. Sometimes we have to go through the difficult part to appreciate the beauties of the blessings that God gives us. So he's telling them what to do, but they're ready to return to where their life was, they would live like slaves. They're ready to go to it. And the way that he compared it is he said this guy, this bootlegger he knew, he got saved. And when he got saved, he didn't frequent the spots that he went before. He didn't go to those spots because he knew that he wasn't strong enough. And now there was a different call on his life. And he said, that he wasn't going to go around alcohol. He wasn't going to go around that type of lifestyle anymore. He had to abandon it to be who God had called him to be. And a lot of times when we go through hard times, when we figure out how difficult it is to really serve the Lord, the easy thing is to return to what we had before. But that's not what God has called us to do. God's called us to diligently serve him. And there's going to be times when we go through the desert to get ultimately to where he's going to take us. But it's going to end up in Canaan. It's going to end up in the right place. It's going to end up in a beautiful place. Just like the Lord led them to that oasis, he's got another one prepared. He never promises that he's going to just make life easy. But he's going to make it for a purpose, and he's going to make it worth it. And ultimately for us as Christians, we know that will end in us being in heaven with God forever. That's the ultimate oasis. That's the ultimate Canaan. That's the ultimate promised land, is that we get to spend all of eternity with him. They're already missing out on it because they're wanting to return to what seemed to be comfortable. And we have to watch ourselves so we don't return to the things in our lives that were sinful. We're causing the very captivity we were in. They were causing it, but we'll return to it just because it seems like a little bit of comfort. Well, God hears them and he provides. He said he's going to provide bread from heaven, but he also puts a little extra on, and he said it's going to be a test. He does. God never tempts us and tells us that clearly in Scripture, but it absolutely tells us in Scripture that God will test us. I remember a football coach and was listening to a story about a quarterback, and his quarterback ended up being a really good player for him, and he had him in practice one day, and the guy was getting frustrated because he wasn't playing more. He'd been a pretty highly recruited quarterback, and he thought, I should be playing more. I'm doing all the hard work, and I'm blood, sweat, and tears. I'm doing all this stuff. But quarterback's a different position in football. Your quarterback is not just expected to be able to go out and physically perform. For your team to be really good, your quarterback has to be a leader. He's got to lead them. He's got to be the one that keeps everybody on the same page, that knows how to corral them, knows how to criticize, but knows how also to pick them up. That's one of the ones that are really good. They have not just physical ability, but they're good leaders. So he basically put his quarterback in an opportunity, and he ended up making this great play. And after he made the great play, he said, he's mouthed off saying, "This is why I should start," and all that stuff. And then the coach looked at him and said, "You just failed the test." He had tested him. He wanted to see if he's willing to put the team above himself, because for him to be the leader that was actually going to lead that team to success, it couldn't be about him. He had to be willing to elevate everybody else. And that's what a quarterback is supposed to do. You're supposed to get everybody else the ball and so that you can be successful and score. Well, that's a good lesson for us as Christians that God's going to test us. And when he does test us, what he's really looking for is, are we willing to be obedient? Are we willing to serve? That's some of the things that he tests us about. And he's testing the obedience of the Israelites, even by giving them this manna, and they're going to fail, just like oftentimes we do. He tells them in verse 5, he's telling them what the Sabbath will be, that it is a day of rest. It's a day that should be set aside for the Lord. And it's not just a day that we rest, it's his day. It's a day that belongs to him. It's a day that we reflect on him. And the reason we need that is, one, we need the physical rest. We do need that. But we also need to reflect on him so when we go throughout the rest of the week, that our focus is on him and living who we're called to be. It's not that he's neglected the rest of the week and just focused on the Sabbath. But the Sabbath is to really focus in, really zone in, to really try to make sure we understand what he's called us to do so we can live a life that honors and glorifies him. He's trying to teach them that from a very early on in history. He's been trying to establish that so we'd understand that he's what we really need. Verses 6 through 8 talks about Moses and Aaron. They let the people know that their real grumbling is really against the Lord. So they're reminding them is what they're grumbling about is they're leading where God is taking them. So he said, what you're complaining about, what you're grumbling about, you're not just mad at Moses and Aaron. You're mad at God. Because God is the one that's directing this. Now, by now you would think that as people we'd have figured that out, right? If you go through their story and put yourself in those shoes and you've seen what they've seen, you've seen all the plagues, you've seen them being escaped, you've seen the Red Sea, you've seen water coming out of nowhere, you've seen them lead to the oasis, and you're starting to see God providing here. They may not have actually seen it when this takes place yet, but you've seen so much that God has done. You would think that they would understand that God was there to lead them, that God was taking care of them. Well, if we're not careful, we do the same thing. How many things in our life can we point to that God has led the way? That he showed us something directly, that he's leading us the same way he was leading the Israelites out of Egypt and toward the promised land here. God is doing the same for us, and sometimes we complain, and we have to make sure that when we complain, we're not really complaining about the Lord. The commentary, when I read it, it was talking about the church members complaining about the preacher. Then it said the preacher complained about the church members, so it pointed fingers at everybody within the church, saying we have to watch what we complain about. There's sometimes there are rightful things to complain about, but when God is leading something, we have to make sure that we understand our responsibility in it. It does tell them in verse 6 through 8, it mentions that meat will be provided in the evening and manna in the morning. That meat, it clarifies as quail later on, and it does give us a description of what manna was like. But it seems like it'd be really, really good to me. I've never had manna, but I kind of think we'd have it in heaven because it's God ordained it there, so why wouldn't it be in heaven? And I think we'll eat because we're talking about feasts in heaven, right? I mean, we talk about getting to eat getting to have a celebration being there. So I think that'll be part of it. The verses 9 through 12 we're reminded that God is the one providing. Sometimes God takes us to the wilderness because there's nothing else there. There's no other explanation that we could come up with to say why they would have bread and quail in the wilderness. But if you ever had quail, quail's pretty good. I like quail. So I think that'd be a pretty good meal. But I also know my own heart, my own tendencies, that I'm just as apt to gripe and complain about things as anybody else. But God's providing. God's the one doing the work. God's the one that provided also for us. Verses 13 through 19, it talks about, mentioning how God provides the manna. I'm going to read to you also, though, from John chapter 6, verses 32 through 35. This is going to be a good reminder to us about what God truly provides for us. In John chapter 6, verse 32, it says, Jesus then said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. From the bread of God, who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." And they said to him, "Sir, give us this bread always." And Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst." Wow. God is showing a precursor of what's to come. He's showing an example of what he's been planning to do for us all along. He was going to provide the bread. He was going to provide what we need. He was going to provide what we needed to sustain us, that he was going to take care of it. We have to trust in that. The only way we can truly be obedient to him, that we can truly follow him, is to trust what he says, to trust that he has a plan, that he trusts that what he's going to do, it will all be worth it. It tells us already in verse 20, is Israelites, we like to hammer on them, and especially because of all throughout the Old Testament, that they serve God for a little while, then they don't. They rebel, they sin against him, they get in a bad spot, they cry out to him, and then God saves them. And then the whole cycle starts over. But it's showing not just what God's chosen people, the Israelites, do. It's showing us humanity. It's showing us our nature. That this is what our nature, our sinful flesh, is going to be bent away from God. We're going to neglect him. When he takes care of what we need him to do, when we get out of the bad situation, then we'll go back into the same old traps. But what we have to understand is God has a purpose, God has a plan, and when he tells us to do something, he's going to take care of us, but he's also probably going to put up some things to tell us what happens when we don't listen. So some of them were gluttonous, and they were going to just take more than their fair share. I'd already worked it all out. You take what you need, it'll be provided for you. You'll have plenty. You won't go hungry, but don't take extra. You can't save it. There's only one day of the week that you could save this stuff. On the 6th day, you could save it. Because on the 7th day, on the Sabbath, there would be none. But every other day, you didn't collect any extra. And then when they didn't listen to him, and they started trying to collect collect it and hold on to it, God let them know. They said that, worms started forming in it. It started to stink. You think they'd have it in their tents or their house or whatever their dwelling is, and it started to smell pretty bad in there. And God's proving a point, say, "I'm going to take care of you, but listen to me. Don't do what I tell you. If I tell you not to do it, don't do it, because there's going to be a consequence for it. There's going to be something you have to deal with about it." When I was in college, one time I went and I gathered up all my trash and was going to take it out of the dorm room before I left, and somehow I forgot it. But one of the things I had in that trash that I didn't think about was a milk jug. Now, there was hardly any milk left in that milk jug. But when I got back, I could smell it. It stunk. It smelled terrible. And I had to do all kind of stuff to get that stink out of there because I didn't clear out. And the bad part about it is I was one of the ones checking everybody else's rooms to make sure that they cleared their stuff out, and I'm the one that forgot my stuff. But anyways, it left a bad odor in there, and it was a good lesson that when God commands us to do something, do it. Don't try to take extra. Don't try to take control of it yourself. Trust him that he will provide. Verse 21 keeps reminding us that God continually provides, that he did it all the way until they got to Canaan, that he provided this manna for them. So he provided all the years, even the years they spent in the wilderness, pretty much out of punishment, as discipline for not being obedient. He still provided. That God is just so good to us. And none of us can say that we're completely obedient all the time to everything that God tells us to do. We can't say it because we know we all struggle with sin. There's a spiritual fight that goes on from the day that you accept Christ to the day that you are here no more. It's a battle. That's why Jesus himself said, "Deny yourself daily and to pick up our cross and follow him." And we have to do that each and every day. It's a good reminder of that. But that he's going to continue to provide. And it's something that I heard a guy talking about it the other day, and it just blew me away just thinking about it. And he was talking about, he was trying to explain the gospel to someone, and he used this analogy to him, and the person was having trouble understanding the gospel. And he said, well, you know, you say you're a Christian and you still sin, right? You still don't get it all right. And he's like, how do you think that you can stand before a holy God, a holy and just God? How can you enter into heaven? And he said, because I've accepted Christ, because Christ is the Lord of my life, because I believe he is the Son of God, when God looks at me, he doesn't see me anymore. He sees Jesus. Doesn't it give you chills? That's how he provides for us. He's not going to see some old wretched sinner when I stand before him. He's going to see his Son, the one that's pure and holy and righteous, the one I don't deserve to see. I don't deserve to be able to call his name. But I get to because of what he did and how good he is. That's an awesome thing that we have a promise of, that God will provide. I don't know how you can read the Bible and not think the whole thing's all about Jesus. And I don't know how you can read it and say, I don't want that. Man. Verses 23 through 24, it says, remind us about how they had to prepare on the sixth day of the Sabbath. And it was a reminder to them, and they were telling them all these things, because not only could they not gather on the seventh day, but if there was any cooking, any preparation, any of that kind of stuff going on, you had to do it on the sixth day. You're not supposed to do it on the seventh day. So that day is to be completely set apart, a complete day of rest. And I think it's important for us to remember that, you know, we need a day to physically rest. We need a day to, we live in a world that all kind of stuff is going on. Mental health issues are on the rise, and all this stuff is happening. And I think part of that is we've abandoned the things that God told us to do that would protect us there. Now, I know some of it is like a chemical imbalance, and there's other things. But I think part of the reason that we're so confused, we're so stressed, and everything's going on, is we run too much, and we forget that we need to have a day set apart that's God's day. We can run, and in the end, what is it all for? But I think it's important we remember that. Now, here's something that was interesting, and I found this also in that commentary, and it's something I didn't really think about. I had to talk to Deborah about it, because I'm not a medical person. But if you flip over to Deuteronomy chapter 8, in verses 3 and 4, but she kind of explained it to me because she understands the medical side of this so much better than me. But in verse 3 it says, and he humbled you and let you hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. And in verse 4 it says, your clothing did not wear out on you, and your foot did not swell these 40 years. He's talking about the people during this 40-year period in the wilderness. And he's telling them, first of all, he said in verse 3, he's telling them, we haven't got to the physical side of it as much yet, but he's saying, when you were hungry, when you were thirsty, I provided for you. I provided the manna. I provided even the water for you to drink in that situation. But he's reminding us that it's not just the physical need that he met. He was trying to teach us that we have a spiritual need. We need God. We need to have him in our lives. We can only find him through Jesus. But we see that in Scripture. It's already being taught to us. We may just not understand it quite yet because we haven't got to the new covenant yet. We haven't gotten to Jesus coming yet. But Jesus confirmed all these things in John chapter 1 when he says he is the Word of God. That he is the one that came to provide for us. That he is the one that's always been providing for us. And then we know that life comes into existence just from God speaking. That we get to be part of that. But in verse 4, it says that their clothing did not wear out and their feet did not swell. Now here's the interesting part about that. I asked Deborah about it because I read it in the commentary and I wanted to see her opinion on it too. I trusted the guy in the commentary, but I wanted to understand it better. So clothing did not wear out, so their clothes held up. Their clothes made it through this whole period, and I can't keep pair of clothes. I can't keep clothes for just a few years, hardly, without tearing them up or doing something to them or getting stains on them. Like 40 years is just remarkable to me. But the neatest part about it, it said their feet did not swell. Now what he said in the commentary, he said one of the reasons that their feet did not swell is the manna and the quail that was provided for them had all the nutrients they really needed. Think about that. All the nutrients that they really needed for their body, God had provided for them. Because one of the reasons your feet swell, not the only reason, but one of the reasons your feet would swell is poor diet. Isn't that pretty cool? It's a great connection that we see that God has been taking care of us. I was reading something the other day, and it was talking about, I can't use the actual name for it, I don't remember, but it's a protein the guy was talking about. It was talking about when God established circumcision. And so when he established circumcision, they were supposed to be circumcised on the 8th day. There's a protein in your body that helps with clotting that is at its best on the 8th day. You think that's a coincidence? Or that God knew? So science is based off on what God told us. All of it that's true is based off on what God told us and what God has done from the beginning. In verses 27 through 30, we already get with the people. They're not listening again. So they go back on the 7th day and they start to try to go and figure out where all this manna is. It's been there every other day. Why is it not here this day? Well, God had already told them. He'd given them specific instructions. He said, you'll gather twice as much on the 6th. And on the 7th, there won't be any. But on the 6th, I'll preserve those. I'll preserve that. It's going to last. It'll make it through. It won't be like the others. It's going to have worms in it. It's going to be stinky and it's going to be no good. It'll be rotten. I'm going to take care of it. But you need to do all your preparation on the 6th day. Don't go out and try to find it on the 7th day. You're supposed to stay in and rest. Well, the people didn't listen. And then Moses is the one that God's going to kind of call out for it. I'm sure Moses is probably not the one going to do it, but when you want a position of leadership, ultimately you have to be the one to bear the brunt sometimes for the people. I like to coach football and baseball, and I've always liked doing that. And you'll have people that'll argue with, will fuss at you sometimes about what happened. Well, generally, I don't tell people to go out and commit penalties. I don't tell you to fumble the football. I don't tell you to swing at a ball and strike out. I don't tell you to do any of that. But I'm the coach and I'm supposed to be teaching you how to, so I got to take the brunt of that, because if I'm going to be a leader, even if I didn't make the mistake, sometimes I got to just eat it. Does that make sense? So Moses is going to be the one that has to wear it. When God kind of confronts him about it, he's like, you people just don't listen. And it's probably not Moses doing it, but he's having to stand up for, he's taking it from God for the people, and God obviously understands. But a lot of that is part of the leadership, part of the reason that Moses was chosen. In verse 31, we get a description of the manna. It tells us it was like coriander seed, it was white, and that it tasted like wafers made with honey. I don't know about y'all, but that sounds good to me. I think God provided you something pretty good to eat, because I like honey. I'd like any kind of a wafer made of honey, and it seems like it's real flaky and it'd be easy to eat, and it seems like it'd be perfect. And what we also know is because of the instructions they had, there was different ways they prepared it. There was different ways that they would cook with it. Because it talks about boiling and baking too. So there was different things they would do with it. But it seems to me that God has provided what they wanted for him. Or what they really needed. Maybe not what they always wanted. Well, it's kind of with us too, is even though sometimes we have a very good thing, it gets really easy for us to focus on something else rather than the great thing that God has right before our eyes. There's this meme, and I've seen it used so many different ways. And this guy is walking down the road, and he's got this girl by his side. And you seem to be their couple. They look like they're holding hands. But the guy is looking back because there's another girl that he's really paying attention to. And I've seen it used with all kind of different things about how we can take our off. He's got this lady that wants to be with him, that's right there with him, but he's looking somewhere else. We can do the same thing as Christians. And God has given us everything we need and provided for us right there. We have to trust in what he's given us. In verses 32 and 33, it was an interesting thing to think about here is that there's three different things that were specifically placed in the Ark of the Covenant. One was the Ten Commandments, obviously, and there was Aaron, the staff he had that had the buds on it was there, and they also placed some of the manna that God told him to keep, to be continually remembered of what he's done for us. So he tells them what to do there. He tells them to take the manna. It's a good reminder of what he's done for us. And in verse 34 through 36, it talks about them, that they had that. They had that consistently with them all the way to Canaan. It's a beautiful reminder of us, too, that Christ is with us, that Jesus has not abandoned us. Whatever we go through, however hard and difficult life is, Jesus hasn't left us. It tells us in Hebrews that he understands, because he's been tempted in every way, he understands everything we go through. It also is a good reminder to us that he sympathizes with us. He's part of the Godhead, and we see God here. When he hears the people cry out, he provides. You know, sometimes we don't feel the immediate answer to the prayers that we feel like we're praying, and we don't think God hears us or understands. He hears, and he understands. But he's going to provide according to his plan and his purpose in his time. We just have to trust in it. We have to trust in it in the days that we live in today, that he's going to provide. Exodus is a beautiful story of that, of how continually God provides. Even when we don't do our part, even when we fail the test, even when we're not always obedient, that God will provide. Now, Deborah and I were talking about some stuff the other day, and we were stressed about how this is going to work and how that's going to work. And I was trying to be who I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be the leader of the household, right? I'm supposed to be the one that we can count on. And I remember telling her, it's going to be all right. It's going to work out. God's still God. It's still good. And the whole time, God's still telling me, boy, you're lying. Because it was going to work out. And God is still God, and he's still good. But he knew the doubts that were floating around in my head that I was trying to disguise. So he's saying, trust me. I'm going to work things out. One more thing real quickly is, Anne-Marie she's learned how to crawl. But she can't walk on her own yet. She doesn't know that. She thinks she can do whatever she wants to do whenever she wants to do it. She's a very confident little girl. So the other day that, Deborah was holding her and she tried to come to me and she just turned away from Deborah and she stood there for a second and we're, reaching and grabbing. But she has so much confidence in us that she'll just dive right on in. Because she believes we're just going to catch her. So there's part of her has to know that she can't move and she can't just stand there and still on her own. So there's part of it maybe has to know that. But she has complete confidence that mommy and daddy are going to be there. And I hope she always feels that way. That mommy and daddy are going to be there when she needs her. I'm not going to fix every little boo-boo and every little problem because she's got to learn how to do that on her own. I can't do that. I'll end up crippling her instead of helping her. But it was a good reminder to me as me having that moment where I'm trying to tell Deborah everything's going to be all right, and I still have my own doubts floating around in my head, that God's saying, hey, fall. I'll catch you. But fall towards me. I've got you. Trust me. And it's a good reminder to us. In Exodus, we see that over and over again. So let's not be people that are gripers and complainers. But people that trust God, trust where he's going with us, and know that he's going to take us to the promised land. He may go through the wilderness a little while, but he's going to take us to the promised land. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father God, I just want to say thank you. I thank you for all you've given us, the many, many blessings we have. And thank you ultimately from the bread of heaven that you provided for us. That Jesus is the bread of life. And we remember it every time we take the Lord's Supper. But Father, help us to remember it each and every day. That what God has done for us, that you have provided for us, you're providing in ways that we don't even see. And Father, just help us to have complete trust and complete obedience into you, knowing that you have a path, you have a way for us. It's easy for us to be like the Israelites and gripe and complain and not be able to see the vision that you're casting. But Father, just help us to see and trust in you. And Father, help us to trust in you so much and to live for you so much and be so obedient to you that other people see that you're alive and you're working our lives, and hopefully they want the same thing. And Father, just thank you again for all you've done for us. Father, thank you for what you will do. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.